In today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 different ways that you can play Zhongli. My name is Anchovies, and I make Genshin content centered around guides, analyses, and lore. If you've already gotten Zhongli and want some gameplay variety, or are still on the fence about getting them, then this video is perfect for you. Be sure to stick around until the end, as I'll be sharing a couple tips and tricks that you can use with Zhongli. Without further ado, let's get into it. Starting with number 1, we have his generic shield bot playstyle. This style focuses on stacking HP for his shield and only requires leveling his elemental skill. This playstyle works well in teams with him as a flex unit or in double Geo with the Albedo or Geo Traveler to take advantage of Geo Resonance. The reason why most play him in this way is because he has the best shield in the game by far and provides an elemental and physical resistance shred, allowing for DPS units to deal more damage and increases gameplay comfortability. Characters who need interruption resistance will especially find value in having his shield. Because of his shield's strength, he is able to effectively replace a healer. However, recent enemies such as Rift Hounds and Abyss Knights have mechanics that ignore or heavily discourage the use of shields. Aside from such mechanics, other downsides of this playstyle include its lack of personal damage or utility and being anti-synergistic with reaction-based teams who rely on elemental auras. The build for this playstyle is full HP or crit rate circlet if you're using Favonius Lance. Weapons you can use include Black Tassel, Favonius Lance, or the new Fontaine craftable weapon Rightful Reward. For sets, 4-piece Tenacity of the Millilith is the best choice, followed by Archaic Petra. 4-piece Instructors or 4-piece Deepwood can be used situationally. A quick tip, if you're running him with Archaic Petra, Zhongli has to be the one to pick up the Crystallized Shard. Otherwise, you won't get the damage bonus from the 4-piece passive effect. Next up is his burst support playstyle. As its name states, this style revolves around dealing damage through his elemental burst. This is especially nice if you have him at high investment with C2 or higher. Alongside providing shielding and universal resistance shred through his shield, he also provides some AoE damage. The teams this build works well in are similar to the ones mentioned in his Shieldbot playstyle. One of the main issues is the reliance of his Constellation 2 to be on par with his other builds. He can also suffer from consistently getting energy to burst every rotation in reaction-based teams that dislike his pillar's pulses. Although this build offers good personal damage, he still doesn't make up a significant portion of the team's overall DPS, making him lower in investment priority. Most builds run an attack percent or HP percent Sands, Geo Damage Goblet, and Crit Circlet. Sets to use include 4-piece Noblesse Oblige, 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate, 4-piece Archaic Petra, or any 2-piece combination of the aforementioned sets. In order to burst every rotation, he'll need around 120 to 140 energy recharge in double Geo, and anywhere between 175 and 220 energy recharge in solo Geo. Thus, it's important to focus on reaching his energy requirements before worrying about more offensive stats. For weapons, crit weapons like Staff of Homa and Deathmatch, attack percent weapons like Wavebreaker's Fin, Calamity Queller, and Vortex Vanquisher, or R5 the Catch are all viable choices for this playstyle. Next is his physical DPS build. This focuses more on his normal attacks to deal physical damage to enemies and his elemental skill for survivability. Although this build can be used in teams that increases personal damage, his synergy with off-field utility characters like Xingqiu Yulan, Beidou, and Fischl allow him to be an efficient driver. Unfortunately, this build's personal damage is underwhelming and has a high preference for single target scenarios. There's a variety of combos you can do with this build, but the main ones include doing 5 normal attacks in either dashing or jumping, or doing a series of normal attacks and charge attack. There are also some niche combos like doing 6 normal attacks and tap E, which is nice for weak enemies like Abyss Mages or Treasure Hoarders, or doing 5 normal attacks and doing a dash, jump, and plunge attack, but those are a little bit tricky and honestly completely unnecessary to use. His build for this playstyle is an attack percent Sands, physical damage Goblet, and crit Circlet. While most offensive weapon options are usable for this build, Crescent Pike, especially at higher refinements, works exceptionally well. His fast attack sequence and multiple hits allow him to take advantage of the weapon's passive. Artifact sets for this build include 4-piece Pale Flame, 4-piece Gladiator, or 2-piece Pale Flame Bloodstained Chivalry, and attack percent variations. Zhongli's main team with this playstyle include Beidou, Fischl, and Xingqiu or Yulan, as they provide lots of off-field damage and application. You can also opt to use them in double Geo with Yunjin, leaving the last 2 units as flex spots for things like Superconduct to increase his physical damage. Moving on to number 4, we have Hybrid DPS Zhongli. This build is an offshoot of physical Zhongli and performs near equivalent to it. Despite their similarities, the main difference between the two is that Hybrid equally uses all aspects of his kit, dealing both physical and geo damage. Like physical Zhongli, this build works well with off-field utility units. Additionally, by utilizing all of his kit, he can deal AoE damage through his elemental skill and burst while still doing single target damage with his normal attack. Sadly, this build's personal damage is also somewhat underwhelming and requires more investment as it utilizes all of his kit instead of specific parts. Similar to more offensive playstyles, crit and attack percent weapons or Crescent Pike at high refinements work best with this hybrid build. For stats, you'll go attack percent or HP percent Sands, Geo Damage Goblet, and Crit Circlet. 4-piece Pale Flame or 4-piece Gladiator's Finale works best with this set, though Pale Flame falls behind most other options if you fail to trigger its passive. Because his damage is evenly focused between physical and geo, running a second geo is highly recommended for this build. Characters with geo constructs like Albedo or Geo Traveler, for example, are highly preferred. The last two spots can be filled by characters with off-field utility depending on your needs. The last and most niche playstyle is running him as a Geo DPS, or sometimes referred to as Microwave. With this build, his elemental skill and burst damage is evenly distributed. However, if you don't plan to use his burst, then you can just prioritize his elemental skill. Geo Traveler is basically a necessity for this playstyle to be effective because they provide personal damage, have useful buffs and particle generation through their Constellation 1 and 4, and are easily accessible since we literally get them for free in the game. Alongside being able to summon up to 3 Geo constructs with their elemental skill, the 4 constructs Geo Traveler's elemental burst summons don't affect the 3 construct limit and can resonate with Zhongli's pillar. By utilizing Geo Travelers and Zhongli constructs together, Microwave offers lots of personal damage and team flexibility. One of the main downsides to this build is that it struggles against enemies that can move outside of the construct's range or destroys them easily. Because of this, and just in general, understanding of construct positioning and limitations are required to make this build work. The standard build for this playstyle is an attack percent or HP percent Sands, Geo Damage Goblet, and Crit Circlet. 4-piece Emblem of Silver Fate or 2-piece variations work best with this build, especially 2-piece variants as they can sometimes outperform Emblem. 4-piece House of Opulent Dreams is also a competitive option, although it's better to get it through something like the Strong Box rather than farming its domain specifically for Zhongli. Remember that if you plan to use his elemental burst, that you meet his energy needs first before focusing on other stats. I already mentioned the exact needs for something like in Double Geo in the burst support section, but to mention it again, it's 120 to 140% energy recharge. Similar to his aforementioned offensive playstyles, crit, attack percent, or energy recharge weapons like Staff of Homa, Deathmatch, or the Catch are his preferred options. If you're using at least one other leeway character in the team, then something like Lithic Spear at R5 can also be a competitive option as well. Examples of teams for this playstyle include Quickswap, Xiao Microwave, and Ito Microwave. Now, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I would share some tips and extra case uses for Zhongli. The first is giving him an elemental infusion with Cryo, Pyro, or Hydro. This can be done with Chongyun, Bennett at C6, and Candace respectively. Due to his fast attack animations and no ICD in his charge attacks similar to other Polearm characters, Zhongli can be used as an effective Shieldbreaker against enemies like Abyss Heralds and Lectors. This is even more effective thanks to his shield and pillar pulses. Another is his ability to quickly break the golden Wolflord Skulls. Stand next to the first skull you approach and tap E to summon a pillar right next to it. By the time you reach the next skull, the pillar will have already broken the previous one. His hold skill works too, but tapping is more efficient due to its lower cooldown and application. In Abyss cycles where the boss is featured, Zhongli is an excellent choice at getting through this phase. Alright, and that's going to be it for the top 5 ways to play Zhongli. If you enjoyed, then leaving a like would be very appreciated. And for more Genshin Impact guide, analyses, and lore content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. A huge thanks to KeqingMains as they are a primary resource and a lot of the information that I provided throughout this video, so be sure to check them out for things like guides and other things. And until the next video, bye bye.